From downtown Scranton, this is Northeast Current. WQPX invites you to join us as we explore public affairs, current events, and arts and culture in northeastern and central Pennsylvania. Now let's meet today's guests on Northeast Current.
Welcome to Northeast Current. I'm Gabrielle Alberigi. I'm a senior Penn State broadcast journalism student, and I'm a summer intern with PennDOT. We're here at the Harrison Avenue Bridge, where the new bridge is under construction, and we're with Pat McCabe, who's the manager, project manager. So why are we building the new bridge?
Basically, it's important for us to get this new bridge. This bridge behind us was the original Harrison Avenue Bridge, and it was built back in the 1920s, and it served the city and the state well as far as accessing critical areas such as the hospitals over in the hill section, and it connects South Scranton to East Scranton. And it's served its purpose well since the 1920s and done admirably. Unfortunately, like all other infrastructure that we have, this is no exception. This one has gotten old and tired and is now at the point where we have to replace it, which is why we're going about our business now of constructing a new bridge. While this one hangs in here for just a couple more years and continues to do what it's done so well for the next 2 to 3 years to carry traffic until this is done, and then we can switch things over.
Very nice. Now, could you explain what has happened throughout the construction process so far? Like, what have your crews done?
It's one of the main things, as with any of our construction projects we start, we have to be mindful of our surroundings. So we have to take care of traffic control, divert traffic, get everyone where there are new traffic patterns, where they can safely navigate throughout the project through the duration of the project. We have to get environmental measures in place to make sure that none of the debris while we're having construction, whether it be concrete or soil or whatnot, ends up in the stream and causes any detriment to any aquatic life, and we have to protect basically the waters of the Commonwealth. That's the second thing that we do. And then third, which is a big deal in any project, is access. And all around you can see access issues, from the roads going down to reach stream level well over 100 feet below, to coming into the cliffs on the other side, coming off the expressway, cooperating with rail lines to actually constructing access roads overlapping the railroad tracks to allow us to come in here. Third thing is access. Then we can start construction. The huge thing with any kind of a bridge project we're getting to is what we call getting the bridge out of the ground. And that's what we're in the process of doing now. As I explained to you before, this is a 3-span bridge, so it has 2 abutments, one on either side. This is abutment 2 on the north side of the bridge, and on the south side of the bridge is abutment 1. In addition to that, we have 2 piers. Again, on the south side of the bridge would be Pier 1, on the north side of the bridge would be Pier 2, and that would complete that. And basically, to get the job out of the ground, like I mentioned, is to complete the construction of both abutments and both piers, so where our foundation is done in rock. And then once it's out of the ground, then things really start to take shape, and the bridge will start to come up out of nowhere. Up until now, people really probably haven't been able to see, other than the traffic control type things, like what are they doing down there? But now when the bridge comes out of the ground, so to speak, then they'll start to climb, and people will really be able to see this thing taking shape.
Right. When did you start construction on it, and when?
Oh, we started construction on this over a year ago. And we did have some bumps in the road in terms of access and some different things we had to work through. Our original completion was in July of 2017. That got pushed back a year, which we don't really see as a major issue, because, like I said, the old bridge is still doing its job as far as transporting traffic. We can make it for another year. We're doing fine. And our new completion date is now in July of 2018.
Well, this really is a great old bridge. It has an important historical aspect to it. Some people are asking, or there's been questions about, why can't you just keep this old bridge here and just continuously make repairs for it?
Well, you're absolutely right. It really is a great old bridge. In fact, I'm not really keen on all the dates, facts, and figures, but I've been told that the chief bridge engineer, when they constructed the Lackawanna Railroad, is a gentleman from Orange, New Jersey. I'm sorry, his name escapes me right now. But he actually, the same gentleman who built the Nicholson Bridge, was responsible for building the Harrison Avenue Bridge later on when he was in private practice by himself. Just like the Nicholson Bridge and some of the other ones, this was a concrete arch. But at the time in our history when this was built was actually in and around the area of the Great Depression, and money was kind of at a premium right there. So they did some innovative things back then to try to stretch our dollars a little bit more so we could actually build a structure like this. What had happened here, instead of this bridge being made out of solid concrete, Believe it or not, the Harrison Avenue Bridge in the middle of its existing piers and infrastructure is actually hollow on the inside. And that hollow area is filled with rubble or earth. In fact, it's known as an earth-filled arch. And unfortunately, like all of our infrastructure, the concrete, as you can see from the outside of the bridge, it's in kind of tough shape. We see chipped concrete, we see exposed rebar. It's a cycle that goes on further and further, and as the reinforcing steel or the rebar that's in there begins to rust, that's an oxidation of the steel, which expands the steel with a coat of rust, pops the concrete off, more water gets in, more rust occurs, and it's an ongoing process. But because this bridge is hollow, unfortunately, whatever you see going on the outside that we could actually see, unfortunately is also going on the inside, and we can't see that. So the bridge is currently posted. It can't carry full loads like it once could. Fire trucks can't get over it. They have to run around. And the bridge is really drawn to the end of its career. Now, couldn't we save it? Boy, I'll tell you that the cost to save something like this effectively would be very difficult to do. And the cost effectiveness. And unfortunately, in this case, that this bridge is at the point where we really can't save it. We'll be lucky to get a couple more years out of it while we're here. The city of Scranton actually asked if we could try and salvage the existing bridge and make it a greenway and take all the truck traffic and car traffic off and put on the new bridge and just keep it as an aerial park, more or less, connecting South Scranton to East Scranton. Also not a good idea, because what happens 5-10 years down the road where you absolutely have to take it down? Now the city of Scranton has to bear that expense, and as we all know, Scranton's finances are stretched thin as well, and it's something that's just not practical for us to do at this point in time.
Right, right. That's very good points. It makes sense now, and as I'm looking at it, I can see the concrete basically chipping off the side.
Oh, absolutely. It's the same process I just described with the concrete chipping and scaling away from the outside. And as it starts having section loss like that, and the old bridge kind of goes away and loses its strength, and any kind of a concrete bridge, the concrete has to work in concert with the reinforcing steel to hold the entire bridge together. Once that bond starts to break down, you're getting in a downward spiral where you have to step in and do something. And unfortunately, in this case, the bridge just has to go.
Right. So in the long run, it's ultimately better.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Now, as you were talking, I see all these crews working, and I hear drilling in the background. Could you explain what is happening back here with the reinforcement, that steel structure back there?
Absolutely. Well, we talked about, first of all, again, this being a 3-span bridge, so we have 2 abutments and 2 piers. We're in the process of getting the bridge out of the ground. Abutments are done. We're all set, and what you see here is the finished product on both sides. Now we have to get the piers all set. The piers are basically going to consist of a substructure, which are cores almost 10 feet in diameter, drilled 50 feet into the ground, that are going to be filled with concrete and steel and support the overall structure. Over each one of these concrete tubes, which is referred to as a caisson, you will have 3 concrete tubes, or the pier columns, extending up into the air, over 100 feet in the air. What you're seeing right here are the steel frameworks that's going to hold and stabilize each of those pier column concrete forms, a box or tube, so to speak, which we will fill with concrete, but you need some kind of way to stabilize them while they're up in the air. That's where this temporary steel infrastructure comes into place. What we plan on doing is doing that for the construction of the piers, but we also got another idea that we're a little bit worried. As you can see how close the old bridge is to the new bridge. We're going to have a brand new bridge next to this old bridge that we're going to have to take down. Right now our plan is to mechanically remove, with busters and whatnot, the approach spans and the smaller spans that go over the expressway and the railroad tracks. But our thought process right now is to probably use explosives to take down the center span, which would be interesting, to say the least.
Yes.
The steel framework that you're seeing now that we're going to use as support, we're going to leave that in place actually to help protect the new bridge from that explosion that will occur toward the end of the project. So that's its second function, and we're kind of developing that as a work in progress as we go along, working with our contractors and our engineers out here to do that.
Right. Now you not only have the new bridge coming up right next to the old bridge, but you're also working really close next to power lines. Is that a challenge?
Power lines are absolutely a challenge, and our partners at PP&L have been working closely with us. We've had several meetings so far. This is one of the main feeds that energizes the city of Scranton, and we cannot take the entire power line out of service. As you can see, there are 6 main power lines on this pole. Ideally, we would like to be able to take the 2 bottom wires out of service. We can't. It's either one side or the other side. We will do that, and that'll make our task a little bit easier, but unfortunately we can't de-energize the whole thing. Now PP&L has warned us when we're lifting these big steel beams into place, it's critical that we always keep the steel beams at 90 degrees to the energized power lines. If we get too close, or for some reason that beam shifts and gets parallel, we could create an electromagnetic field that could be detrimental to our employees who are actually doing it. So we're going to be very careful, have PP&L hear us, take every precaution, not do it on a windy day, and really pay attention to what we're doing on that day, because it's like nothing I've ever encountered in the last 30 years of doing this, working under a live high tension line like that.
Right, that makes sense though. Always got to be safe.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And also I'm looking at the bridge. It's beautiful. It has the arches and everything. What's the design of the new bridge going to look like? It's going to resemble?
The new bridge, no. The new bridge is more of a conventional bridge, and it's going to be steel beams with a deck on it. However, as a throwback to the old bridge, as designed, there are going to be haunches or curved portion of the steel beams over each of the top of the piers to kind of give it some character, although it won't be as grand as the arches here. And again, this is what we call the substructure, or everything below the deck. Okay, so the substructure, we will kind of have a tip of the hat, so to speak, to where the arch was, because after all, you think about this is the main gateway to the city of Scranton, my city. It's where I live, you know, and it's something that I'm proud of. All the people in our city are proud of it. We want to make sure that this works out well. So we have these curved haunches that are going to give the beam some character. Now, having said that, let's talk about the superstructure, or the portion of the bridge on top of the beams where you go up. The superstructure has some ornate parapets. What a parapet is basically the wall along the sidewalk and the bridge that makes sure that if a car is having an issue on the bridge, it'll hit the parapet, it won't go off the side of the bridge. It more or less contains cars on the bridge and protects pedestrians on the bridge. The superstructure on this bridge is going to be really cool, because what you're seeing on top of this bridge is not this bridge as originally designed. This was a retrofit that was done back in the 1970s, and all of the ornate parapets and all the grandeur of the existing bridge and all the pedestals that were on top of this were removed at that point because they had deteriorated so they were beyond hope. So that was more or less cut back. What this project is actually going to be doing is recreating the original 1920s era pedestals, period lights, wrought iron fence, and parapets that we had on the original bridge. So if you're on top of the bridge, it's going to be what it was like back in the day that most of the people who are alive today have actually never seen.
Well, that's nice.
Yep.
Yes. So when is it? Is expected to be completed?
Like I said, it was originally our completion date was in July of 2017. But now, because of some issues we had as far as access, which we've all overcome, it just took some time, our new completion date is now July of 2018. A lot of that's being driven by placing the concrete deck and whatnot. That's something you can't do practically in the winter. If we, at the end of this construction season, are at the point where we have our concrete beams in place, we'll be happy and let those beams winter over, and then we get the deck in. Another kind of cool thing that we did is when we first sat down, we took a look at the original color that this bridge was supposed to be. And there was a group that sat down early in the design process and took a look at this, and for some reason they wanted the entire bridge, the parapets, the beams, and everything to be battleship gray.
Oh.
It's the gateway to our city. We're somewhat less enthusiastic about that, so as a project we decided to revisit that. And we pulled in an organization called the HARB, and I hope I get this right, but I believe it's the Historical and Architectural Review Board. There's a gentleman who's an architect in the city of Scranton. His name is Mr. Leonori. He sat down with us, and he's very good with colors and with history, and he's picked out a color palette for this bridge that is just awesome. He's going to have the grout and all the stonework stand out. He's picked out some colors for the stone. He's picked out color for the beams and the stonework on top. And it's going to be something we're all going to be proud of. This really, truly is going to be the gateway to our city. It's going to be a pretty cool thing to see.
Now, one of the things is there's a park on the other end of the bridge. What's going to happen with that?
There's been a park here. Like I said, I grew up in the city. I was born in 1961, but ever since I was a little kid, I remember driving over the Harrison Avenue Bridge, and there was a Duffy Park there. and I believe it was for Colonel Frank Duffy, who was a veteran of World War I. There was a statue in this park which was an infantry statue. It was called a Doughboy. That's what they referred to the U.S. infantrymen in World War I, and it was always called Doughboy Park or Duffy Park. The Doughboy statue is supposed to be replaced in the midst of this park when the project is all done. Unfortunately, the statue is in pretty rough shape, and we're currently taking a look at some options on maybe to do with the statue. There's a possibility that we may be able to replace the existing statue with a bronze casting that we're thinking about actually making of our existing statue. There's a company in New Jersey that we're dealing with, and boy, their name escapes me right now. I wish I'd researched that part of it afterwards. But they had actually proposed that we could take a casting of the Scranton's Doughboy statue and make a plastic mold of it and recast a bronze statue in its place that would actually be made from our statue, so we could actually put this back. Unfortunately, that's going to take some money to do. Hopefully it's going to be something that we're going to be able to work out. We're working with the city and with PennDOT in order to try to do that, and hopefully we'll be able to pull that off, and when people come back through here, there will be a Doughboy statue back in Duffy Park. But that's 2018. When we get to that point, the bridge will be built, and I'm actually looking forward to that because there's a lot of hurdles to do between then and now. But that is kind of the end game. And like I said, it's between being a gateway back and forth, actually to the city when you're coming in the expressway. Over the top, it's a gateway in and out of South Scranton to the hill section. And then obviously green space is kind of key to something like that. It's one of the key development features in all of our city these days. And we want this to accent the bridge up on top. So hopefully that'll work out.
On behalf of everyone at PennDOT, thank you, Pat McCabe, for joining us, for explaining the entire project. Stay tuned for more updates on the Harrison Ave Bridge. If you have any questions, comments, you could email our office at jamay@pa.gov.